The wind howled like a banshee through the jagged canyons of Wyoming territory, whipping snow into a frenzy that blinded man and beast alike. On that forsaken Christmas Eve in 1887, Jedediah Jed Harlan staggered toward his isolated cabin, his boots crunching through drifts that threatened to swallow him whole. He'd been out checking traps when the blizzard hit, sudden and vicious, as if the devil himself had unleashed winter's wrath. But what stopped him dead in his tracks wasn't the storm. It was the bloodied rag fluttering on his porch railing, tied like a desperate flag of surrender. No, not a rag. A letter, smeared with crimson stains that froze his heart colder than the gale. Who in God's name would venture out here, in this hellish whiteout, to leave a child's plea stained with what looked like fresh blood? Jed snatched it up, his calloused fingers numb as he unfolded the paper under the flickering lantern light inside his cabin. The words, scrawled in a childish hand, leaped out at him like a ghost from the grave. Dear Santa, please send me a father. Mama says you're magic, but I don't want toys. Pa died in the mine last year, and Mama cries at night. We live in Willow Creek, and I'm scared the bad men will come for us. Please, Santa. Love, Ellie Mae Thompson. The ink blurred where tears, or was it blood, had smudged the edges. Jed's breath caught. Willow Creek was 20 miles east, a ghost town riddled with outlaws since the silver vein dried up. What kind of bad men stalked a widow and her child? And how had this letter, meant for the North Pole, ended up here, carried by winds that screamed murder? He crumpled the paper in his fist, but the words burned into his mind. Jed Harlan was no hero, no saint with a badge or a Bible. He'd ridden with the wrong crowd in his youth, rustling cattle across the Montana border until a botched job left his partner gut-shot and dying in the dust. That was 10 years ago. Now he scratched out a living trapping furs, alone with his regrets and a bottle of rotgut whiskey. But something in that letter clawed at him, a hook sunk deep. Was it the blood? Or the echo of his own lost family, buried under an avalanche back in '78? He saddled his horse before dawn, the storm still raging, knowing full well he might not make it to Willow Creek alive. Little did he know, the bad men Ellie mentioned weren't just thieves, they were kin to a secret that would shatter his world. The trail to Willow Creek was a nightmare of swirling snow and hidden crevasses, where one wrong step could send horse and rider plummeting into oblivion. Jed's mare, a sturdy bay named Rusty, snorted plumes of frost as they pushed on, the wind biting through his buffalo coat like knives. By midday, the storm broke just enough to reveal the skeletal outlines of the town, boarded-up saloons, a leaning church steeple, and the remnants of the Thompson mine. Its entrance collapsed like a gaping wound. Smoke curled from a single chimney, the widow's shack on the outskirts. Jed tied Rusty to a post and approached, his hand hovering near the Colt. .45 on his hip. The door creaked open before he knocked, and there she stood, Sarah Thompson, eyes wide with terror, a shotgun leveled at his chest. "Who the hell are you?" she snarled, her voice trembling but fierce. Behind her, a girl no older than 8 peeked out, clutching a rag doll, Ellie Mae, no doubt. Jed raised his hands slow, the letter extended like a white flag. "Ma'am, I ain't here to harm. Found this on my porch last night. Figured it wasn't meant for Santa." Sarah's face drained of color as she snatched it, her knuckles white. "How?" she whispered, then yanked him inside, slamming the door against the wind. The cabin was sparse, a pot-bellied stove, a threadbare quilt on a cot, and the faint smell of beans simmering. Ellie stared at him with big blue eyes, the same as her ma's. "Are you from Santa?" she asked, innocent as a lamb. Jed knelt, awkward, his hat in hand. "Reckon I'm as close as you'll get, little one." But Sarah's gaze bored into him, suspicious. "Letters don't fly 20 miles in a blizzard. Someone brought it to you." Jed frowned, she was right. The bloodstains, fresh, not weathered. Whoever delivered it had been wounded, maybe dying. A shiver ran down his spine. Was the messenger watching even now? As night fell, Sarah spilled her tale over weak coffee, her voice hushed to spare Ellie, who slept fitfully in the corner. Her husband, Tom, hadn't died in a mine collapse like folks said. He'd been murdered, shot in the back by claim jumpers led by Black Jack Harlan. Jed's blood turned to ice. Harlan. His own surname, but no relation, or was there? Black Jack was his estranged brother, vanished after that botched rustling job years ago. He thinks there's still silver here, Sarah whispered. Tom hid a map to a secret vein before he died. Jack's been terrorizing the town, looking for it. Last night, our neighbor tried to warn me. Slipped Ellie's letter out, but Jack's men caught him. Shot him dead on the trail. The blood on the letter, the neighbor's dying act. Jed's mind reeled. If Black Jack was his kin, blood called to blood. But Sarah didn't know that yet. Why help us? She pressed, her eyes searching his. Jed lied, just a lonely cowboy, ma'am. Can't abide a child without a pa. But deep down, he knew, this was redemption or damnation, and the line between was thinner than a razor's edge. Gunfire shattered the silence at midnight, bullets splintering the cabin door like thunderclaps from hell. Jed dove for cover, yanking Sarah down as Ellie screamed. They're here. Sarah cried, grabbing her shotgun. Through the window, shadows moved, 5 riders, torches flaring in the snow. Black Jack's gang, no doubt, come for the map. Jed fired back, his Colt barking flame, dropping one outlaw from his saddle with a guttural cry. Stay down, he bellowed, reloading as lead whined past his ear. The door burst open, and in stormed a hulking brute with a scarred face, knife gleaming. Jed tackled him, fists flying in a brutal melee, the taste of blood filling his mouth as they rolled across the floor. Sarah blasted the intruder point blank, the shotgun's roar deafening, his body slumping lifeless. But more came, and in the chaos, Ellie vanished, snatched through the back window by a masked rider galloping into the night. Jed's heart hammered like a war drum as he mounted Rusty, Sarah clinging behind him, her tears freezing on her cheeks. They'll take her to the old mine, she gasped. That's where Jack holes up. The pursuit was a mad dash through moonlit drifts, hooves thundering over frozen ground. Shots rang out from pursuers, one grazing Jed's arm in a hot streak of pain. He wheeled Rusty into a narrow ravine, losing them temporarily, but the mine loomed ahead. A black maw in the hillside, guarded by flickering campfires. Sneaking closer, Jed overheard voices, the kid knows where the map is. Her pa told her bedtime stories, 'bout it. Black Jack's gravelly laugh echoed. If she don't talk, we'll make her ma sing. Jed's blood boiled, he couldn't wait for dawn. With Sarah covering him from the rocks, he crept in, knife in hand, slitting a sentry's throat in silent, shocking efficiency, the warm gush of blood a grim reminder of his outlaw past. Inside the mine, the air was thick with damp and dynamite fumes, lanterns casting eerie shadows on timber supports. Jed moved like a ghost, heart pounding, until he found Ellie tied to a post, tears streaking her dirt-smudged face. "Mister," she whimpered. He shushed her, cutting the ropes, but a boot scuffed behind him, Black Jack, pistol cocked, his face a twisted mirror of Jed's own. "Well, if it ain't my long-lost brother," Jack sneered, eyes gleaming with madness. "Come to claim the family fortune." The revelation hit Jed like a freight train, brothers, separated by betrayal. Their pa had been a prospector, leaving a cryptic map that Tom Thompson had stolen, or so Jack claimed. "You left me to die in that rustlin' mess," Jack growled. "Now you'll watch the kid pay." Ellie screamed as Jack raised his gun, but Jed lunged, the shot going wild, echoing through the tunnels. The fight was savage, brothers grappling in the dirt, fists and knives flashing. Jack slashed Jed's cheek, blood spraying, but Jed countered with a headbutt that cracked bone. They tumbled deeper into the shaft, lanterns shattering, plunging them into near darkness. "The map's in the girl's doll." Jack rasped, choking Jed against a beam. Outside, Sarah's shotgun boomed, taking down reinforcements. Jed broke free, grabbing a loose pickaxe, swinging it in a deadly arc that buried in Jack's shoulder with a sickening thud. Jack howled, firing blindly, the bullet ricocheting and striking a dynamite crate. "No!" Jed yelled, scooping Ellie and running as the mine trembled. Explosions ripped through the earth, timbers collapsing in a roar that swallowed Jack's screams. They burst out just as the entrance caved in, dust billowing like a mushroom cloud, Sarah rushing to embrace her daughter. But the shocks weren't over. As the dust settled, Jed confessed his lineage to Sarah, expecting revulsion. Instead, she revealed her own secret: Tom hadn't stolen the map, he'd bought it fair from their pa before he died. Jack twisted it all, she said, bandaging Jed's wounds by the fire back at the cabin. Ellie, safe in her arms, looked up at Jed. "Santa sent you, didn't he?" The cowboy smiled through his pain, the first real one in years. But as Christmas morning dawned, a rider approached, not an outlaw, but a U.S. Marshal with warrants for Black Jack's gang, and Jed's old crimes. "You're under arrest, Harlan," the lawman drawled, cuffs glinting. Sarah gasped. Jed had known this might come, his past catching up like a shadow. In a twist of fate, Ellie produced the map from her doll, a vein rich enough to buy freedom, if mined right. But would Jed take it and run, or face the noose for a family not his own? The marshal's horse pawed the snow, steam rising from its nostrils, as Jed stood defiant on the porch. "I ain't the man I was," he said, eyes locked on Sarah's. The lawman laughed. "Tell it to the judge in Cheyenne." But Sarah stepped forward, map in hand. "This proves Jack's lies. Tom was innocent, and so is Jed." The marshal eyed the parchment, yellowed with age, markings of hidden silver that could change everything. Skeptical, he agreed to escort them to town for verification, but en route, ambush struck, remnants of Jack's gang, thirsting for vengeance. Bullets flew in a chaotic hail, the marshal hit first, slumping from his saddle. Jed grabbed his rifle, returning fire from behind a boulder, Sarah shielding Ellie as lead chipped stone inches from their heads. One outlaw charged, horse rearing, but Jed's shot felled him mid-gallop, the body tumbling into the snow in a spray of red. Another circled, firing wildly, until Sarah's shotgun ended him with a blast that echoed across the plains. The last fled, but not before wounding Jed in the leg, blood soaking his pants. Limping, they pressed on to Willow Creek's telegraph office, wiring Cheyenne for backup. Days blurred in a feverish haze as Jed recovered in the doc's back room, Sarah nursing him with broth and whispers. "Why stay?" she asked one night, moonlight filtering through cracks. "You coulda rode off." Jed gripped her hand. "That letter found me for a reason. Maybe Santa's real after all." But the biggest shock came with the marshal's return. The map was genuine, worth a fortune, but inscribed with their pa's last words, forgiving both sons, urging unity. Jack had forged his grudge, Jed's betrayal was a setup by rivals. With bounties cleared and silver flowing, Willow Creek revived, new miners, a school for Ellie, life blooming from ashes. Yet suspense lingered, whispers of Jack surviving the collapse, scarred and vengeful, sightings in distant saloons. Jed married Sarah under a spring sky, adopting Ellie as his own, but he slept with his Colt loaded. One stormy night, a knock echoed, a stranger with Jack's eyes, but no, it was a cousin, bearing news of Jack's confirmed death in the rubble. Relief washed over them, but Jed knew the West's shadows never fully lifted. Years later, Ellie, grown and strong, would tell her children of the Christmas miracle, a letter in the wind, bloodied but blessed, that brought a father from the storm. And Jed, graying but vigilant, would smile, knowing some hooks sink deep enough to hold forever. The sun dipped low over the Wyoming horizon, painting the sky in hues of fire and blood, as Jed Harlan rode out to check his fences one crisp autumn day in 1892. 5 years had passed since that fateful Christmas Eve, and Willow Creek had transformed from a dying speck on the map to a bustling town, thanks to the silver vein that had poured wealth into its veins like liquid hope. Jed's ranch sprawled across the valley now, cattle lowing in the pastures, a far cry from his lonely trapper's cabin. Sarah managed the household with a firm hand, her laughter echoing through the sturdy log home they'd built together. Ellie Mae, now 13, rode like the wind on her pony, her blue eyes sparkling with the mischief of youth. But beneath the peace, an undercurrent of suspense simmered. Jed could never shake the feeling that the past wasn't buried as deep as that collapsed mine. It started with small things, a missing calf here, tracks in the mud that didn't match local boots there. Then came the letter, slipped under their door one moonless night, no blood this time, but words that chilled Jed to his core, the Harlan blood runs thick. Debts ain't paid. No signature, but the scrawl mimicked Black Jack's, down to the jagged H. Sarah paled when he showed her, clutching Ellie close. It's a ghost, she whispered. Jack's dead. But Jed wasn't so sure. He'd hired hands to guard the ranch, but paranoia crept in like fog. Was it a copycat, eyeing their silver? Or had his brother clawed out from the earth, fueled by hate? The first attack came at dawn, riders thundering down from the hills, torches aflame, setting the barn alight. Jed burst from the house, rifle cracking, dropping two before they scattered. Flames roared, horses screaming as hands fought the blaze. In the ashes, they found a medallion. Jack's old lucky piece, engraved with their pa's initials. He's alive, Jed growled, mounting up with a posse of trusted men. They tracked the raiders to a hidden canyon camp, smoke curling from a fire. Sneaking in, Jed overheard plans. Boss says hit the mine next. Take the girl, leverage. The boss? A figure in shadows, face bandaged, voice raspy from dust-choked lungs. Jed's heart stopped. It was Jack, twisted and broken, but breathing. The showdown erupted in gunfire, Jed's men flanking the camp. Bullets whizzed, one outlaw falling with a gurgle, another pleading mercy before a shot silenced him. Jed charged the tent, tackling the bandaged man in a fury of punches. Bandages unraveled, revealing not Jack's face, but a stranger's, scarred and sneering. Who are you? Jed demanded, knife to throat. The man laughed bloodily. Hired by the real ghost. Jack's partner from the old days. He died, but left instructions. And that medallion, to ruin you. The twist gutted Jed, no resurrection, just lingering poison from the past. The partner was Silas Crow, the rival who'd framed Jed years ago, now seeking the silver for himself. Crow escaped in the melee, vanishing into the wilderness, but Jed knew it wasn't over. Weeks of tense vigils followed, ranch fortified like a fort. Ellie, brave but scared, asked, will it ever end, Pa? Jed hugged her tight. It will, darlin'. I promise. The climax came during a cattle drive to Cheyenne, herds stamping across the plains under stormy skies. Ambush from the bluffs, Crow and his remnants, rifles blazing. Cows panicked, stampeding, as Jed's cowboys returned fire. One bullet creased Jed's scalp, blood blinding him, but he spotted Crow on a ridge, aiming at Ellie, who'd insisted on riding along. In a shocking surge, Jed spurred Rusty forward, leaping a gully in a desperate charge. Shots echoed, his own finding mark. Crow tumbled from the cliff, body crumpling below with a final, bone-shattering impact. The gang surrendered, rounded up for the hangman. Back home, as rain washed the blood away, Sarah bandaged Jed once more. It's done, she said softly. But in the quiet, Jed wondered, how many shadows lingered. The west was wild, hooks of fate pulling unexpected strings. Yet with his family by his side, he faced the horizon unafraid, the letter's miracle enduring. Winter returned to Wyoming in 1895, snow blanketing the land like a shroud, as Jed Harlan sat by the fire, carving a wooden horse for Ellie's upcoming birthday. The ranch thrived, silver mine yielding steady, and peace had settled like fresh powder, until the stranger rode in. Tall, cloaked in black, he dismounted with a limp, face hidden by a wide-brim hat. "Jed Harlan," he rasped, voice like gravel. Jed's hand drifted to his gun. "Who's a skin?" The stranger pulled a locket from his pocket. Inside, a faded photo of their ma, long dead. "I'm your half-brother, Zeke. Pa's bastard from before he met your ma. Jack knew, used me as a pawn." The revelation exploded like dynamite. Zeke had been the ghost, manipulated by Jack's dying wishes, letters and medallions his tools. But Zeke wasn't vengeful, he sought forgiveness, having broken free from the cycle. "Crow was my mistake," he admitted. "Let me make amends." Suspicion warred with blood ties. Jed tested him with questions only family would know. Satisfied, he offered a hand. Zeke stayed, working the ranch, his stories filling evenings with tales of hidden trails and lost loves. But suspense brewed when old maps surfaced, another vein, deeper, riskier. Miners whispered of curses, collapses claiming lives. One fateful dig, timbers groaned ominously, dust choking the air. Jed and Zeke ventured in to investigate, lanterns flickering. A rumble shook the earth, "Cave in." Trapped in darkness, air thinning, they clawed for escape. "This family's cursed," Zeke coughed. Jed refused, "Not while we breathe." Hours of desperate digging, fingers raw, until light pierced through, rescued by Sarah's frantic crew. Emerging, Jed realized the curse was greed. They sealed the vein, content with what they had. Years rolled on, Ellie marrying a kind rancher, grandchildren filling the home with laughter. Jed, old and weathered, would recount the tale to wide-eyed young'uns. A letter in a storm, blood calling to blood, shocks that forged a family. The West tamed, but its spirit endured, suspensive, shocking, eternally interesting. And in quiet moments, Jed thanked that long-ago wind, the hook that pulled him from loneliness to love. The tale didn't end there, though. In 1905, as automobiles chugged into the territory, disrupting the old ways, a final twist arrived via telegram: "Jack Harlan alive. Escaped mine. Heading your way." Jed, now 60, strapped on his Colt one last time, the family rallying. But the Jack who arrived was an imposter, a con man peddling fake claims, using the legend for gain. Exposed in a tense standoff at the saloon, he fled into the night, the myth dying with him. True peace settled then, Jed passing in his sleep at 70, Sarah by his side, Ellie inheriting the ranch. The letter, framed on the wall, reminded all. Sometimes Santa answers in shocking ways, through blood and storm, hooking hearts together forever. The end came not with a bang, but a whisper of wind through the canyons, carrying echoes of suspense and shock into eternity.